onto the Don't Worry Darling. We all got a chance to watch it this week. Thank you, UK, for actually releasing a film on time for once. That was great.
Just a quick question. Are we keeping this spoiler free?
I was just about to mention that, yeah. So I think we spoke about it, and it is difficult because I think a lot of this film, when you're reviewing it, it's quite hard to not go into spoilers. Did speak about some people asked for spoiler free, some people asked for spoilers. I think we'll start off by just doing a quick thoughts, and then if we really want to, we can go into some spoilers. So obviously we'll mention that now. Obviously read the synopsis and not go into already. But I mean, coincidentally, we all actually had it around the same ranking. We all give it around the sort of 3 out of 5 mark on Letterboxd, around sort of 6 out of 10. I don't know who wants to go first with this. I will just say that I enjoyed it. However, I'll go into it in a second, but there was definitely a lot of issues. So I think we can all say that. First thing I want to say, though, Harry Styles was not that bad. I think that's the first thing I want to get out there. He wasn't that bad. He wasn't.
Will you read the synopsis before we get into it, just so like people who may not want to watch it just know what's going on? I think we should do that before.
Yeah, sure. Sorry. So obviously, Don't Worry, Darling. Obviously, synopsis start is a 1950s housewife living with a husband. Obviously, the housewife played by Florence Pugh, husband played by Harry Styles. In a utopian experimental community, begins to worry that his glamorous company may be hiding disturbing secrets. And yeah, who wants to go into it first? Because we all had a similar opinion on it.
And all right. Well, I have a little prologue before I go into it. So this I just want to mention this. So I went and saw this on Thursday with my wife. She enjoyed it a whole lot more than me. Like she really liked it. And as we talked about it more, like there were obviously a lot of themes in this movie, and I'll try not to spoil it. I'm not going to spoil anything. A lot of themes in this movie that like she has to deal with a lot more, like the man, basically like needing to be this breadwinner of the family, the woman sitting back. There are a lot of themes in this movie that she like really felt impacted by and hit home. Hopefully not because of me. And
I was gonna say, where are you going with this?
Yeah, exactly. Not because of me, I don't think, but you can ask her, maybe some past relationships, things like that. So obviously, like you could take my review with like a grain of salt if you want. I don't have to deal with a whole lot of things that go on in this movie. That being said, I don't think it's great. I don't think it's a great movie. Everything about this movie kind of felt middle of the road. And we talked about it. You mentioned it. Harry Styles, I think for 90% of this movie, he's actually really quite good. He like does a good job. I think it's the 10% of the movie that he really needs to act is where he struggles. It's the clip going around on YouTube or the face. I don't know why that is the only point in the movie that it lingers on him. In a moment of silence, it lingers on him, and he really just needs to not do a frowny face. And
not do a frowny face.
Exactly. And it's things like that where I think like I this is going to be my nice way of saying I don't think he did amazing. I think this was a hard role for him to be his very first role. Like
big role. Yeah.
He said he's not an actor. He was struggling. Everyone else was kind of doing a lot better than him, and it's pretty apparent. Like Florence Pugh is. She's my second favorite actor of all time. She's incredible. She bounces around him. Like she's so much better than him.
It's hard to, if you're going to do a role, some people are saying he's miscast because obviously playing, a role next to Florence Pugh, who is incredibly good at a woman losing her sanity. Like as we've seen in Midsummer, she's just a brilliant actress. I think that does make it look like Harry's a lot worse. But I think a lot of people are just saying it's bad because it's Harry Styles. Whereas most films that you watch probably have worse acting than Harry was doing here. Yeah. Tyler, I know you were quite open about saying that Harry Styles, you thought he was pretty good as well.
Yeah, so again, completely echo what Cam said. Like 90% of the movie, I thought he was quite good. 10% wasn't the greatest, but I didn't find it to be awful. However, one thing my girlfriend did say, like right when we walked out of the theater, she's like, I thought Harry Styles was very good. Shia LaBeouf would have been better in this role, though. I mean, obviously, there's a whole casting snafu. Yeah. So from a girl's perspective, who obviously, girls love Harry Styles, right away, the first thing she said, she's like, Shia LaBeouf would have absolutely crushed that.
Yeah, I mean, George, you look like you want to say something here about Shia.
Yeah, that was literally the first thing I said to Victoria when we walked out of the theater was Shia LaBeouf would have absolutely bodied this role because I think he could have pulled off that like suave, like husband kind of 50s look. and then not getting into spoilers, but he could have also pulled off what we needed to see at the end of the movie. I don't think Harry was bad. I think when Harry was very reserved and just having conversations with his co-stars, it was fine. It was just the points where like he had to genuinely act and like scream at Florence Pugh, where I was like, he's like really like Florence Pugh acts, and it feels so natural. It doesn't look like she's acting. It looks like she's genuinely having a panic attack on screen. Harry, I was like, okay, he's trying to act. Like he is trying his very hardest right now to act, and it just doesn't feel natural. And then also, I was telling Victoria this. Harry Styles is too big of a name to just bring into a movie and try to make me forget about the fact that he's Harry Styles. Like the entire movie, I was like, that's Harry Styles. Like that's not Jack or whatever his character's name was. I was like, that's Harry Styles. Like just call him Harry Styles. Florence Pugh does such a good job at just meshing with these roles that she's given, where it's like I forget that that's Florence Pugh, you know.
Is that something that bothers you guys often? Is like when a big name like Tyler mentioned it earlier, when Jake Gyllenhaal is doing voice acting, it's hard to forget that it's Jake Gyllenhaal when Harry Styles is on screen. Like that's never something that's upset me. It's just like I don't know. I know they're actors. Like I don't know.
It doesn't upset me because like at this point, like there's that like Leonardo DiCaprio, like it's obviously Leo, but like he's such a good actor where like I forget it's Leo. The thing, and I'll bring this back to whenever they cast a new James Bond, I don't want them to cast like Henry Cavill or Tom Hardy because they are well-known actors whose faces I know. I want them to cast a no-name who I'm going to look at and think James Bond.
Interesting. Okay.
It doesn't really bother me when it's an actor or a great actor. It's more just like a Harry Styles or someone who's not been in acting long, who may have been just famous for other things, and they go into it. I do know what George means. I do look at him and think that's Harry Styles and not Jack. I know a lot of people said the same thing, but yeah, I mean, like the main issue I had with the film in general was that I don't know about you guys, but I felt like the first 90 minutes they just revealed way too much, which led up to a final sequence of trying to put some shocks in there. Obviously, I won't say much, but I just feel like they revealed way too much early. That just made the final sequence fairly anticlimactic. I don't know if you guys agree with that.
I found it very predictable. So yeah, I agree. The two big twists, or I guess the one big twist, but I feel like it was pretty like 30 minutes in. I was like, okay, I see where they're going with this. So
yeah, exactly.
That part of it kind of annoyed me because I was like, whereas like I think some people can see it and just enjoy it at face value and not look into it and get it spoiled if you're just watching it and not really trying to focus on where's this going. But I found it pretty predictable.
Yeah, I don't think I guessed. I definitely didn't guess like what exactly was happening, but you figure out the general idea that's happening. I don't know if Tyler, you knew like exactly what was happening, but also there's like one thing that happens at the very end that I'm like, it's not like a main plot point, but I was like, oh, I think this is gonna happen at some point. And I don't know. I kind of agree with you guys that it wanted to have a lot of twists, and it almost felt like they just kind of added them in at the end,
just to try and promote, to try and give that like shock value, so you maybe think it's a better film than it actually is potentially. I don't know. I just think it revealed too much. I mean, George, did you feel the same way, or did you feel a bit different about
it? I guess this is where like we're opposite on this. I thought the first like act and a half was like genuinely good filmmaking. Like I was locked in. I was like, where the fuck is this film going? Maybe I'm just stupid, but I had no idea that like that was going to be the twist. But then when that ending happened, I was like, okay, this didn't feel necessarily rewarding. Like this felt too, Truman Show-esque, where it's like, oh, there's an outside presence that's like not detectable. And it's like, if that's too spoilery, we can cut that out, by the way.
No, I don't think that's too spoilery.
I don't think it's spoilery at all.
No.
But I think my biggest problem was with the film was just how bland it felt. There was so much potential in so many side characters that just went nowhere. There's so much potential in like Florence Pugh's character that just kind of went nowhere. I actually like what happened with Harry's character. I will say that. I think
I did.
Like how he ended,
like how he ended, like his backstory, why he was doing what he was doing. Like I genuinely enjoyed that aspect of the movie. I think that was an intriguing character.
Yeah.
The whole movie just felt very shallow. It felt very bland. It felt very trying to imitate past mindfuck classic.
Yeah.
So this movie's pretty difficult to talk about without spoilers. So I figured once we're done with our thoughts here, we'll start a spoiler section. And we have right now, if you're watching this on YouTube, Spotify, wherever, no matter where you're watching it, in the description there's timestamps. You can jump to everything. Yeah. So I was gonna say in big and bold, saying like spoiler discussion of Don't Worry Darling starts now. Spoiler discussion ending of Don't Worry Darling ends now. So if you haven't seen it, don't want to be spoiled. But I'll let you guys finish up your overall thoughts before we jump into the spoiler portion.
I thought Chris Pine was great. I wish we had more ChrisIne. I thought he was really
so good.
Great. Every time he was on screen, I was locked. I loved it. Like I go on, Cam.
No, just last point before, like, this is my last non-spoiler point. Olivia Wilde obviously has that very iconic clip that was going around a ton. If a movie's bad, it's the director's fault. I argued the directing in this movie was good. Like, I actually really liked the directing of this movie. Like, the shots that were taken is a lot of cinematography, but also
visually,
visually, it's the screenplay that let us down.
The score was also very good, very chilling.
I was just about to say the score was great. It was like really original. Like, there was some scenes where it really made it much more intense. The score was really
a lot of like opera, like choirs of people kind of just chanting.
It's weird.
Eerie.
Yeah, it's very eerie. Yeah.
And then last point is where the fuck is Nick Kroll in this movie?
Yeah.
Why was
I said that?
Doing there, man. So miscast, dude. He's
okay. See, I don't think. Okay, can we get into spoilers? Because I don't think
spoilers are starting now.
Okay,
great.
Spoilers are starting right now. So it comes to fruition that Harry's character is like this down on his luck, deadbeat.
They made him look bad too.
The idea that Nick Kroll in the outside world is like he has that persona where it's like he can pull off this suave 1950s character, but like you look at Nick Kroll and you're like, oh, this is trash. Like he could pull off like that trashy outside world character that would be doing this type of thing.
Dude, Nick Kroll.
Yeah.
Nick Kroll had so many scenes that I thought were just very bad because what he would do is he'd do those very serious things when he's talking to people that are new into the world. But it's one of those things where like, oh, he's about to say like, just kidding or whatever, but he's not. And he's like so serious. Like, you don't need to know about Jack. And he's just staring at them and like, oh, where's it? And then he's gonna be like, just kidding. And he's just staring at him like seriously. Like, this is bad.
Yeah, I thought that when that scene happened actually. I didn't get it at all. Did anyone else think that like it was going to be more of a, obviously we're in spoilers now, more of a physical world? That was like what I got going. I wanted that. I think I wanted more of a Truman Show kind of esque world when I went in. That for me kind of
rather than all in their mind.
Yeah, that kind of dampened the enjoyability for me personally. But that's just obviously my preference.
But it also, I mean, Tyler, I'm going to let you take over after I'm done saying this because you brought this up. There were so many plot holes in this movie.
So many.
The one that Tyler mentioned that really stood out to me was if they're literally just lying down in bed, why can't they just shut themselves off? Like, why can't someone shut down Harry? Why can't someone shut down Florence's character?
I have what I think is the answer. I think it's more like all Harry did is just sign up for this thing. He wasn't like, hey, I'm at this location. You know, I don't know. In my opinion, like obviously it could be a plot hole or it could be like an explained.
I don't know.
Whatever. It doesn't matter. I thought when you mentioned a plot hole, I was like, I don't know. They're just at their home. No one knows where they live, kind of thing.
No. Here we go. I got to go on a little rant here about spoilers.
All right.
They show that Florence Pugh is a 20-hour straight working MD, top of the hospital doctor. If she's gone, they're going to know it.
Someone's checking.
Speaking of that, all of these people are just bodies that are there for seemingly weeks. So first off, why does no one know they're missing? Second off, is Harry Styles feeding them? Is he giving them water? Like, how are they alive? Third of all, we'll jump into that. Go ahead, George. Sorry.
Just one thing I'm going to say to the whole Florence Pugh's occupation. Victoria brought this up. She is a doctor. They call her doctor, not nurse. Like
doctor. Yeah.
Why do they have money problems?
Yes,
they got student loans out the ass. You know, I mean,
by the time you're an MD doctor, you are rolling in it.
I don't argue with that. And that's kind of something I asked, but I don't have any MD doctor friends. I have pharmacy friends who also make a lot of money, but they also pay a lot for school. So they're kind of like, I mean, obviously I'm only 2 years post-grad and I know a couple people who like, they still have money problems just for how much they, but maybe by the time they're 30, 40, I don't know where they'll be at. Like at some point you hit, like you make so much that you like, are getting rid of that that student debt. And I don't know, the world gets you sometimes. She's paying for a incel husband. Like,
yeah, I don't. The money
that's
issue didn't bother me. Anyone can have money issues. Like, it did bother me how no one is checking up on anyone in the, like, people wouldn't know. Like, it just didn't make sense. Like, but the money thing, everyone can have a money issue, can't they? It doesn't, like, I don't know. But I get what Tyler's saying with that. Yeah.
One decision that they made at the end I really disliked was Chris Pine's wife turning on him. I feel like the point was the theme was women taking back their power. But if you think about this world that Chris Pine built, because he's the architect of this world, it's not something he can just drum up in his office one day and make. This has got to be something he's worked on for years. This was his passion. This is his business venture. His wife would have to be all in on her. Otherwise, she would divorce him and leave him. Like, she's not going to be through him with the whole creation of this company through all these years and then just be like, yeah, I'm turning on you and killing you.
Yeah, I'm turning on you.
Very
this
forced.
Is your turn
Very
to not have a
forced.
life. Kind of.
To that point,
Very forced. Another's trying.
One thing I just didn't understand was if you die in the virtual world, you die in the real world. Why?
I mean, that, to be fair, that's a plot of a million different
films.
Movies.
Yeah, but like, I just don't understand it.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I don't know.
but like in Ready Player One, you die in the Oasis. You don't die in the real world.
You love Ready Player
idea.
One, don't you?
I do love Ready
I
Player
think the
One.
idea, like, have you guys ever heard if you die in a dream, you die in real life? I think that's kind of the idea. I've heard that before, but like, I don't know why.
It's not like Chris Pine's character got stabbed in real life. Like, it was just like his avatar that got, like, why can't when he gets stabbed in the virtual world, why can't he just take off his eye shit and just be like, oh?
The only reason that doesn't bother me is because that's in so many films.
Yeah,
like, it's never explained. Yeah. But back to Tyler's point. Sorry, Cam.
No, you go.
The part where the wife, it was just another thing that was just in there to try and shock value. I don't. It maybe it shocked everyone, but in the complete wrong way. It just like went against everything the film was about. I just think that was such a pointless scene that didn't need to be in there at all.
They were at the dinner table scene, the big scene where Florence and Chris Pine just kind of go at it. And Chris Pine's wife, Gemma Chan, in the film just kept staring at Florence. Like, the entire time I was watching the scene, I was like, oh, she's going to get up and she's going to defend Florence. Like, she knows that Chris Pine's doing something wrong. And then she starts defending Chris Pine. And I was like, this feels a little out of place. So then when she ended up stabbing Chris Pine, I was like,
actually
exactly.
It didn't feel rewarding because I wasn't necessarily on her side. Like, I wasn't on
exactly.
Chris Pine's
Who cares?
side.
Who cares?
Yeah.
That's actually the point that, like I said, I saw that coming because the dinner scene, like, she seemed so. I was like, she's gonna kill Chris Pine at some point during this movie.
I didn't predict that. To be fair,
that's the part that I actually did think about. Also, just like going back to what I said initially, like this whole movie is very much based on the fact that, like, Florence Pugh is obviously the breadwinner, but she works 30 hours. So Harry Styles thinks she's so upset, but she says, like, that's what she likes to do. She likes her job. Harry Styles feels the need to, and it's said multiple times during the movie, feels the need to, I keep saying breadwinner, but feels the need to be the breadwinner. He goes out. So the twist is, like, every day he leaves the fantasy land for work. And he makes money to stay in it. And to your point, Tyler, I think it's just kind of like, while I don't think it's done well, I think the point is, like, at one point or another, maybe she had some idea, but, like, Chris Pine induced Gemma Chan into this world and she didn't really know what was going on, but maybe she was starting to feel. And that's another thing. I don't think they fleshed out that character enough to, like, you see that she's learning, hey, I've been captured here. It was also interesting. And another thing they didn't explain with, like, why does Nick Kroll know he's in this universe or not?
That was a weird one. Yeah,
Olivia Wilde is the one who put him there, unless they both agreed, because, and this kind of hit pretty close to home, just having a kid. They lost their kids at one point, but here in this universe, their kids are alive. So I don't know if both
that
of
would
them
be my
were
interpretation. Yeah,
they didn't really describe it, but I think it's again just something anyone's allowed to take my review with a grain of salt, but obviously I think the whole point was Harry Styles, like, thought he was doing the right thing to an extreme to where he's captured this doctor. But like you guys said, how's the doctor missing work?
The last thing I want to say is that I do want to watch the film that is apparently very similar to is obviously the Stepford Wives, which is a 70s or 80s horror film, I believe. So I do want to watch that and draw comparisons from that. But again, I think we all had a pretty similar opinion on this. it wasn't a bad film. It wasn't a bad film.
No.
It was a decent film, but it had a lot of
It's not a
screenplay issues.
35% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Right.
Yeah. What's
Yeah, but
everyone's
what is
score?
a 35% like on Rotten Tomatoes? Do you know what I mean? It's like I just said tomatoes. But like it's Rotten Tomatoes is one of those things we spoke about this before, but like I don't know. I thought it was a decent film. That's it. I think it was a decent film.
What's everyone's score? I have it as 63.
It
would be
3 out of 5, so
yeah,
I'll
like
go-
a 6 out of 10.
I'll go
6 out of
60
10.
to 65.
6.1.
Okay, so I liked it the most apparently, but
No,
What
wait,
did you
didn't you
give
just
it,
say? Oh wait, you had a higher.
63.
All
Okay.
right.
But that
Three
might
point.
be mine.
Yeah,
Well,
no.
yeah.
yeah.
Differentiate.
I was just saying.
Two minor things about the movie that I wonder if you guys knew what was going on or could explain it. So first off, all the earthquakes, is that just like Harry Styles opening the door coming home from work, you think, and slamming the door shut?
I think it
and
was
shaking?
it was the plane crashes. I
The
think
plane crash.
Okay, well then what's the plane crash?
which
What
was not
yeah,
explained. Which was not explained. So
That's one of the biggest issues I had about this movie is they threw so many like smoke and mirrors to try and make you think it was a real world, like the plane crash, the earthquakes, and then I feel like by going to the VR world, it's just like, why were you were just doing all that just to mislead us? There wasn't actually any purpose. There was no explanation. I had no clue what the plane was like, or the earthquakes.
I don't really want to draw comparisons here because I had not to say that it wasn't a better film. I had similar issues with this that I had with Nope, to be honest, in terms of how much they tried to throw in. And that's not to say that okay, Nope is a better film, like it is, and it's a better screenplay. And I might just be too stupid to understand Nope, but don't worry, darling. I had similar issues in which that things were not explained to the depth that they could have been, and I just didn't understand certain things. I think that's my,
I think the
eventual
difference,
answer to this.
and I'm going to defend Nope for my life because I think it's such a good movie. Don't Worry, Darling threw a lot of things at us, the plane crash, the earthquakes, that one didn't get explained, but two, it just left us confused.
Yeah.
Whereas Nope threw a lot of stuff at us, the shoe, the
Monkey.
the coin
Monkey.
in the head, the monkey. They didn't necessarily have explanations, but there were so many potential interpretations of these things that just made it interesting. Whereas these things that were thrown at us in Don't Worry, Darling just kind of ruined the experience.
Yeah.
If I'm making sense here.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, it was a decent film. Has anyone else got anything to cover in terms of Don't Worry, Darling? Or we all...
I have one very small point, and the only reason I bring it up is it's in a commercial, and I saw it last night when I was at a bar, so I can't really, I wasn't watching enough. I swear to God, in the scene where the wall is enclosing on her in the window, I swear to God, and someone please go find this for me. There is a picture in the background that is not Florence Pugh. It is a stand-in actor that they had with Harry Styles, and it's not Florence Pugh. And I was watching it because that scene goes on for a while, and I'm watching it. I'm like, that's not her. It doesn't take anything away. I just
listening to the
needed know
podcast.
that.
I
just
just listen to the
needed
podcast.
to know
Wants
that.
to do some like research, maybe.
I think it's in the commercial. I think it's in the
Oh, okay.
commercial for the movie. Is her getting pushed against that wall or against that window? So please tell me if I'm right or wrong. I swear it's not her.
And
Sounds-
one more thing for me, I think Harry Styles in the real world was good acting.
Dude, yeah,
I do. I said that. I think he was better. He was better with an American accent than he
I
was.
don't know
with
if
an English
that's a hot take. I think he pulled off the American accent. I think he pulled off this just piece of shit, rugged looking guy really well. It also
They made him
further-
look bad.
They did. They made him
I
look
think
really.
Harry
That's a hard
Styles
thing
is
to do.
bald in real life. I think he's bald in real life, and this just elevated my thought of that.
Yeah. One final thing for me, I'm sorry we keep going on with this, but this movie had so many plot holes, but what bothered me is Olivia Wilde and like the way this movie was done paid attention to detail. So the in the real world, or like in the virtual reality world, it's supposed to be 1950s housewives-esque. If you saw when she was a doctor, her name tag said Alex, and then in the 1950s, that's not really a common housewife name of the old days, so he switches it to Alice. So I feel like that's such a small detail that they added in there and caught. So it's like, how can you do all these small details and leave such huge plot holes at the same time?
Huge balls. Yeah.
You also have to understand, and I'm going to come to Olivia Wilde's defense, I guess. This is her sophomore outing, and her first one is just a very simple coming-of-age film.
And it's great.
This is a massive step. Yeah, and Booksmart is great.
Which she
It's
said she was
good.
gonna do.
It's good. It's good.
But this is just, that's beyond the point. But the point is, this is such a crazy step for her to take, considering how inexperienced she is.
I appreciate how bold it is. Yeah.
Which she said she wanted to do, because she said if I ever get a chance to direct another movie, I'm pulling out all the stops and making it like a big blockbuster, like big event. So she said that after Booksmart came out. So props to her for attempting.
Also, so I'm so sorry. We can move on because I think George. I'm so sorry. Also, I was talking to my wife about this, and I just wanted to mention again. We made note that this movie has a lot of themes that like women have to deal with, and then she went and paid Florence Pugh less. So what are you doing, Olivia Wilde?
Boom.
I'm out.
That's the best way to end that discussion.
Oh my god.